How does this soda can, with so thin of aluminum, keep its shape, pressure, between the diaphragm and the bladder muscles of the pelvic floor? Just this little cylinder right here. So you can actually imagine your body, the soda can is right here. The bottom of the soda can is that bladder. So if you have weak bladder muscles, you probably also have some weak breathing muscles. They go hand in hand. By strengthening the breathing muscles, you actually improve bladder muscles, and vice versa. It goes up and down. You can't just improve one side without improving the other. Breathe in through my nose, right? Have to contract my diaphragm and it pulls down. So we're playing with pressure. If I pull this down, now there's going to be more pressure down here and less up here. So the air rushes in. If I just open my mouth and go like that, I don't have that pressure pushing the air and getting rid of the old air. If I go, and I'm creating pressure, like you guys were saying, you're creating pressure with your lips. So you're forcing the air. You have some pressure against your lips, force that air out. Put your fingers right here on the side of your stomach, and then tighten your lips very, very tight and blow out just a little bit. You'll feel your stomach muscles contract. Now do it again. Breathe in, just a normal breath in, and have your air go out through your mouth just like this, without any pressure. It doesn't feel the same. That's right, it doesn't feel the same. That's the biggest part of the diaphragm, is getting the air in, getting that pressure right here. So you probably also have difficulty with balancing, I imagine. That's a big part of your balance, is that pressure and that stability. Because when we are sitting, right, we still have pressure exerting back up. But there's coordination. You call it clumsiness because a lot of people say they're clumsy, but it's actually coordination. It's a muscle coordination. So if half your diaphragm isn't working, that half the diaphragm isn't coordinating, isn't doing what it's supposed to do, like when you were a kid and things balance each other out. That's right. So if you are unbalanced with contractions, you're going to feel clumsy. That diaphragm lies underneath the rib cage. Can you get your fingers underneath that rib cage? Does it feel soft or does it feel really hard? Because it should be soft. And when y'all were younger, it was soft. You feel like a baby, right? A baby has a big belly. When you see a baby laying on their back, their belly is huge when they breathe in. Have you ever seen that? Belly breathes in and out, and that's natural diaphragm breathing. That's what we used to do. And as we sit more, maybe we get an injury, our brain forgets how to do that breathing, and we start breathing by lifting up our chest, and that becomes the main part of the breathing. And that's not a great way to be efficient, because lifting up your chest, this chest is heavy. Instead of lifting, if you can just pull the diaphragm and pull the air in, now you're working less and you have less neck pain. Why would breathing in more with your diaphragm than your shoulders help to improve bowel motility and things pushing down? Pressure. It's all about pressure. You guys are getting it. It's all about the pressure. You're creating pressure. So you pull down the diaphragm. Now you're compressing low, and you're pushing that bowel down. You're helping to encourage it go down. The flip side is, if I'm always lifting up, wouldn't it be hard for things to settle down if I'm always exerting a force, pulling up? And that's what happens. A lot of people don't have that. We're going to get in the weeds a little bit, but peristalsis in your intestines, that happens. It's helped by having the diaphragm in and out. It's helping that rhythm of pushing the bowel down. Another thing, it's that shape. So we got a dome, we got a cylinder, like almost like a wine barrel, right? This is a whole cylinder right here. It's supporting, and it's flat. It's relatively flat with a little bit of curve. Just like the diaphragm, that pelvic floor is like a dome. This bit right here, a round shape, if I push down and there's not some pressure in between, I'm going to have orange juice. Now this is a little bit different, right? It's just a little bit different of a shape. What's the difference between this water bottle and this soda can? You're getting there. I actually don't think it's the material, because this material is actually, research shows, actually thinner than this plastic. but it comes back to the pressure. If I was going to stand on this water bottle, you can't compress water, but the bottle itself, you can compress all the air out until we just have water left. On this side, there's air in here. It's not, you hear that? You can hear the air shaking around in there, and the carbonation. So there's air in there. But if I stood on this, I'm not going to compress the air at all because there's more pressure inside exerted on the environment. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So having these different examples, how do we train the diaphragm? We do some exercises. We make sure we have some flexibility here. The diaphragm can contract. But how will we actually strengthen it? How will we strengthen the diaphragm? What are some ideas? Has to do with pressure again. What are some ideas? Tell me what you do with Mark.
Like Mark was showing us, the more pressure we take in the air intake,
yeah,
is moving the diaphragm. The more we move the diaphragm,
yeah,
the more the diaphragm starts to get better and better.
Yes. Yeah. And then how do we move the diaphragm more? How do we resist it? So I'm going to show you one way that you're not doing at the pulmonary rehab clinic that you can actually do at home that's going to help accelerate that diaphragm strength. And it's something, that's why I brought this laundry detergent. It's kind of an eclectic group of things. This is just a weight. This is about 8 pounds, a gallon of water, laundry detergent, a soda bottle, 2-liter bottle, anything like that. So what we're going to do, I'm actually going to hop up on this table. Okay. So
Do you ask me to do that? Do you need somebody to be your spotter?
not really, because I've trained my diaphragm. So when we're laying down, right, the belly lifts up and down. If we're doing diaphragm breathing, the belly's going to go up and down just a little bit, right? A sign that someone is doing diaphragm breathing rather than upper chest breathing would be they can breathe and talk at the same time. They can exert force and be talking and not have to do a lot of pauses within their sentences. You probably have a lot of friends that are pushing something and they hold their breath and then they grunt and they groan. That's not using your diaphragm, right? That's generating pressure without that controlled release of the air pressure. So what we want to do, the first level would be taking that weight, and you can visualize where the diaphragm is, right underneath the bottom ribs. So if I put this on my belly right here, watch what it can do. So I'm not flexing my stomach. I can actually talk while breathing in. See how that lifts up and down a little bit? And I'm not thinking about contracting. My stomach muscles are very relaxed, even when they're up. I'm not flexing my abs or doing crunches to get my core strong. I'm just using the pressure that's in that cylinder, the pressure that the diaphragm is doing. So see how this lifts up? I can even get it higher by pushing the air down. And now I'm training with 8 pounds right here. So I've personally worked up to training to 45 pounds sitting right here in my stomach. I don't recommend that for you guys. 8 pounds would be great. All you have to do, if you want a little extra pressure, push your hands on that weight. And now you have a resistance to breathe in, like you're talking about, and do the breathing that you learned in pulmonary rehab, right? In and out even slower. So if you breathe in, and now it lifts up, and now the weight really wants to push the air out fast, but I'm slowing it down. So the weight is pulling down with gravity, and I wait for it to go all the way down so it kind of settles and rests again. I breathe back in. And I want that timing, like you're saying, Dave, 2-4 or 2-6 ratio. Breathe in and let the air come out very slowly. By doing that, you're strengthening the diaphragm, because how else can I get to actually that diaphragm muscle? I can barely touch that diaphragm. It's not like touching a bicep or a tricep that's very easy to train, very visually makes sense. The diaphragm, you have to exert more pressure down, so when the diaphragm contracts, it pulls down and resists it. If we're just kind of walking and we don't have that much resistance down here in that cylinder, that diaphragm is going to get weak. We'd start breathing with our upper chest, oftentimes with different pulmonary aspects. Our chest gets more, gets wider, gets larger, and that changes the ratio. That makes the diaphragm stretch. So muscle that's too stretched, too flexible, won't be strong. If I bent, this plastic over and over again, I bent it over and over, it's going to end up folding, right? If I just kept squishing this plastic right here, right? There's no support, there's no liquid. If I kept doing this for 2 hours, you'd probably see a permanent indentation, right? There's no pressure pushing back. And if a machine did it for another couple hours, it would probably break. That's because there's nothing pushing back off of the structure. But if I go like this, and I'm pushing, and I go from this angle, the pressure of this volume of this is laundry soap. I was like fabric softener or laundry soap. It's pushing back, so it's resisting me. So this is resisting my force, and if I push the same amount of force as I did here, that exerting is going to be completely different. So we can't change gravity. Gravity is constant, but we can change how our body responds to gravity, right? Gravity is always pushing down, and it's trying to compress us. It's trying to compress both the water bottle, so it's going to squish out all the airspace, or you can have it try to compress here. We want to be more like the Pepsi can instead of the water bottle. We don't want weak spots, like you were talking about the serrations, right? We have these little lines that are meant for crushing the bottle afterwards to make it easier to crush. So these are all weak stress points of the bottle, put there by design. This one, they don't do that. They let it up to you to figure out how to crush it if you want to after you're done. They want it to be very strong, so even if you're drinking it, if you hold it, you're not just going to squish and all the soda comes out. There's some rigid by design, but most of it has to do with how the pressure is different. So 1 bar is, I think, the atmospheric pressure. So 2.7, you said? So that would mean this is 2.7 times the air pressure out here in there. So that's why when I open it, it juts out really fast. And if I shake it, now that carbon dioxide, right, the air is building up, it's trying to escape even more so. So that's the difference between if I open this bottle, I just open it, right? Nothing happens. Exactly. It's not carbonate, and there's no pressure underneath there. So if I shook it up, the shaking will affect the carbonation. But by not shaking it, that's the pressure. So the water is actually very, very at the top. If I squeeze this like I just did, right, that's water is going to fill over top, right? So we don't have that cap. But if I squeeze it here, right, I'm just compressing what little bit of air is in there. I can't compress the water. So I can't compress the fluid. So there's this part about your body is there's a lot of space. It's not just a sack of fluid or organs. There's a lot of space between all your organs, intestines, and so there's a lot of compression. That's why when people are walking or running, you might feel things kind of moving up and down a little bit. To take that pressure off your back and put pressure onto your whole core, that's where the diaphragm training of breathing and doing that resistance is going to help. So when I see anyone with back pain, my first thought is, how are they breathing? I watch how they breathe. And most of the time, a person with back pain is breathing by using their whole rib cage to elevate and move rather than using the diaphragm to pull down and breathe. And you notice how I can actually breathe in and talk at the same time because they're two parts. I can bring air in and still have some air pressure going out. If I talk too fast or too loud, I can't do both at the same time. But like you're saying, a 2-to-4, 2-to-6 ratio, if I breathe in more air than I'm breathing out or a shorter sentence, I can do the same thing, just like auctioneers, right? They actually do a lot of diaphragm training. Those auctioneers, they speak super fast and super loud. It's diaphragm training. It's using that core. And that's what they do. They use weights. I've seen videos of them putting 50-pound weights on their stomach. Pretty big guys, they're auctioneers. And they train that diaphragm to make the difference between outside pressure and inside pressure, great. Because the greater the difference, the more power you can exert. Just like this can. Imagine if we went into a higher elevation, we went to 10,000 feet. I open this can, even a ketchup bottle can, right? Or ketchup bottle, not a can, but just a ketchup bottle. You go to higher elevation, take this atmosphere, and you go to somewhere 10,000 feet, it's going to explode. Can you imagine how much more so this? If at 2.7 bars here, we bring this up to 10,000 feet, even without shaking it, it's going to explode. Any kind of exercise you're doing, you can always be training your breathing muscle, whether you're doing some arm curls, you're rowing, you're on a bicycle, you're using other muscles, but that has to be exerted first by the core. As people get older, we're talking the 90s and approaching 100, usually their diaphragm, they lose a lot of that force and their voice gets very soft. They're not creating enough air pressure here that's different from the pressure outside. That 2.7 bars here is now down to maybe a 1.5 or 1.1. And the difference, if you open that, is not going to be that click and a nice pop. Just like if you're talking, you're not creating that nice loud voice phonation. So it really comes back down to you can train your diaphragm for balance by doing any of the things that you're already doing. Walking, biking. You don't have to do a separate exercise routine for it. You just think of how you're doing it. The people that are aware of sometimes when we're stressed or maybe have some pain, we're going to breathe a little bit different. And we have to think about, okay, how is this different way of breathing or moving going to affect me long term? It might be a temporary way to adjust, to take away some pain, but your body will start getting those reps in of the wrong way of doing things. So when we go back to how we were doing it, like how babies and kids breathe and move, it feels unnatural. It feels harder to do. So it takes a little bit of that brain training. So one more way you can train your diaphragm, instead of just putting weight right here, you can take a band or a belt and strap it around your stomach like this. So if everyone slides back just a little bit, you can actually do this with your hands. Just slide back a little bit. Take your hands, go like this. Yep. And we're going to put that underneath your rib cage on the soft part of your stomach. And go ahead and push in a little bit. There you go. So this is going to train. And if you're sitting, Dave, if you're sitting on your backrest, lean forward a little bit. So when you breathe in, can you use the air pressure to push your hands apart? Yes, only if you're breathing the diaphragm. If you breathe in through your chest, did you feel any motion? If you breathe in big up here, you probably won't feel your hands move at all. And that's one of the easiest ways to test, and you can even train when you breathe out now. Bring those hands in a little bit closer. Give a little more compression, a little more resistance. And as we breathe back in, have the pressure push the hands apart. To make that easier, you won't be able to hold your hands there forever. Put a little exercise band, a little stretchy band around that stomach area, doing the same thing, breathing out. So that way, encourage your body to breathe in all directions, because this is not flat. A lot of people think of just breathing as up and down. Yoga is really known for doing belly breathing, which is great. That's a great start. The belly goes up and down, but that's only some of the picture. Just like the can, we have to be able to breathe 3D, all directions. You are breathing into your hands side to side. You also breathe into your back, but a lot of people aren't trained in that area, but that's the rest of the cylinder. Think of the diaphragm it's round, it's oval, so it needs to have all parts of the diaphragm working to create the force so you can expand in all directions. And that's an important part, is when you're standing. If I was standing like this, if I stand and walked around like this all day, what's happening? What's going on? Because the diaphragm is now here. My other bladder muscles are right here. If I lean back and walked around like this, what would happen? Besides having back pain, what else is going on? Yeah, I'm stretching all the muscles here. That's right. And what's happening back here? That's right. Putting stress on it, putting pressure on that. So if things are overly stretched, like think of a piece of rubber. I'm always stretching this piece of rubber here, and it's gonna wear out. It's gonna be so stretched. It's gonna be permanently stretched out until we think about how we cinch that back down And it's not through doing sit-ups or a lot of these other ab exercises that people do. It's about positioning. We have to get that diaphragm so it goes over top like a cylinder or a piston over that pelvic floor. So back to this, if I'm going to drink a little bit, that way I can bend this. So if I walked around like this, there we go. So now it's my lower back, my L5S1. A lot of people have low back pain right there. Walk around like that. Gravity's still pushing down. It's still bending me back more. I'm compressing. I'm making these very, very tight. And I'm stretching the front. What the limiting factor, I can keep going. I'm starting to stretch that plastic. And look at this. I've got no support. My back's going to continue to fold back until the pressure inside says that's enough. But look how much further. And even when I let go, there's some permanent change. Same thing would happen here. If I open this up and I bent it over and over again, bent it back, that's even when you fill it back up, it's not going to look the same. We've created some permanent structure damage in the back on the spine, the discs. So before that happens, we want to train this in first alignment and second, the diaphragm. So you can't really train the diaphragm, right? If I was here, like you're talking about, all stretched out, it'd be hard to do the training and put the weight right here and breathing in it because it's already stretched. Everything's already stretched out. How can you stretch something that's already stretched out completely? If the diaphragm's already, and you probably have friends that kind of lean back and the rib cage is kind of flared out, that diaphragm's already stretched. We need to tighten it and cinch it down so it creates that pressure. So finding that alignment, that's why posture, like when you guys are doing exercises, you guys are walking, standing. When you were in high school or elementary school, they would say, your parents would say, sit up straight, stand up straight. Or if you're giving a speech, who's ever listened to a person giving a speech that looks down like this and kind of, they're mumbling, right? If their posture is down here, they're not going to create a nice expression of sound. Until you look up, stand tall, the diaphragm is over that pelvic floor, you can create the air pressure. You can talk to someone a half a mile away, they'll still hear you. But if you're flexed down, even if I try to talk loud, I can't do it. My voice mumbles. My voice, it doesn't sound crisp and clear. I'm not creating that pressure. Look at that. I've lost the air cavity right here. So now when my diaphragm contracts, I can't expand. Not nearly as much as when things are level, things are parallel. So when the diaphragm goes parallel with the pelvic floor, now that's the cylinder we're looking for right here. Posture and training really do matter. It's not about finding that perfect posture and sitting there all the time. It's about finding a posture that you can create force from, that's going to make you feel stable. It's not going to be an extreme here or here. It's that middle position where the body can work efficiently. And that's it. There's not a fancy positioning that you need to do, or you need to do this exercise a bunch of times, but you can feel it when you're working your diaphragm, whether you're flexed forward and trying to breathe or just sitting up, just kind of relaxed in the middle, your diaphragm works so much better. Expanding, yeah, because it's like you're doing right there, right? You're taking some pressure off, so now the body can feel the pressure of your upper chest is now supported on your thighs. And you can feel that air pressure. Now it can't move forward because it's compressed in the front. Now it has to move backwards. So actually that could be a good repositioning to now kind of target the muscles in your back. We don't want to stay in one position for too long. Even the best position, we need to move in and out of. But yeah, leaning forward like that and doing a little bit of breathing. So we're expanding that air pressure back. You can feel that, yeah. It sounds like you're very in tune with what your body does. Having that, the more we train these different things and think about it, it'll be more automatic to get to that best posture. I don't want to give you things that you have to work at it and you have to, it's just another thing to do, but I want you to feel that difference. It's kind of a nice positive reinforcement. When I do sit in kind of middle alignment, if I do sit with things level, I feel lighter. I can move easier, talk stronger. If I compress up here, isn't there more force exerting on the transverse abdominis now? If I keep compressing, there's even more force. So the simplest way to train muscles that it's hard to kind of find is just generate more pressure and more demand for the muscle, and they will figure it out. So if I create more pressure and as I breathe in even deeper, now I'm pressuring that, pushing that down. So now I'm stretching the transverse abdominis without even thinking about it. To make it more specific, you could think about kind of that sound. That's your transverse abdominis. But you don't have to do that. You'll still train it by just changing the pressure by one muscle, by having the diaphragm contract stronger and deeper. You're going to be putting some stretch, some compression. Now this water bottle has to figure out how to stay stable because the transverse and all these other muscles are working harder to keep the shape. I challenge people to think of things very simple. Diaphragm pulling down in contraction, now it forces the body to stabilize that bladder muscle. So my grandma, I gave her just that weighted breathing exercise. She had a lot of incontinence. She couldn't get to the bathroom. When she felt like she had to go to the bathroom, she could go maybe 5 seconds. All of a sudden, she's like, oh, I gotta go. And she's got 5 seconds to get to the bathroom. So when doing this, it trained her body to relax the bladder muscles, and it trained that sling of bladder area to be more stable, to be strong. And not strong like we're contracting very tight, but strong as it stretches. We still have some tension. And that's what we want to be, is strong under tension. As we keep giving more tension, it responds accordingly. It's not just a on or off. These are the big on-off muscles, right? Biceps, triceps, the six-pack muscles, those are on-off muscles. They can't stay on all the time. They're fatigued, they're low endurance. What Mark is saying is work on the muscles part of that cylinder. The transverse abdominis is a huge part of that cylinder. It's the side, it's the main side, and even some of the front of that cylinder. You don't have to train each individual muscle separately. You can train as a unit, training as compressing here. Now I'm training all the muscles at once. And whichever one is the weakest muscle, that's going to be the most stress. That's going to be trained the most. We don't need to train a muscle that's already strong. We want to find where that weakest muscle is. For my grandma that had the incontinence, for her weakest muscle was that pelvic floor, that diaphragm down here. Her stomach muscles were pretty good. Her diaphragm was pretty good. But as she breathed in deeply, she felt a little bit of a leak. There's people that exercise, they do jump rope, and they leak when they jump rope because they had all that compression force. It all drops down here. Or people that walk fast, stand up from a chair, and they leak a little bit. It's that sling on the bladder. You can help that out by doing this exercise, laying on your back, putting a little bit of weight right here, breathing in and out, and stabilizing that core. So it works the whole thing. Just like Mark said, he clicked for him. It's a whole cylinder. You're resisting the whole unit at one time rather than muscle by muscle. Muscles don't ever stay the same shape. Muscles can grow. Muscles can help each other out. So the weaker ones can get helped by some of the stronger ones. So there is improvement, and I still challenge you. You will get an improvement even after a really intense pregnancy of laying on your back and working on the diaphragm pulling down. And if you're not leaking or you're not having incontinence, you're doing pretty well. But it's good to even get that stronger, more stable.